Abarth started working on the 500 shortly after its introduction, and by May of 1958, the Mini Wonder had swept the first 4 places of the 500cc class in the Hockenheim 12-hour race. Abarth pushed the 500 to a record for its category over a 7-day, 18,000-kilometer run at Monza, at an average speed of 108 kilometers an hour. In July of 1958, Cinquecentos took the first 3 places in the Liège-Brescia-Liège race. The 500 also raced in the Thousand Lake Rally in Finland and in the Monte Carlo Rally, powered by the Sterpuch flat-twin engine. Carlo Abarth went on to modify all Fiat models to a racing standard, including the coupe version of the 600, seen racing here against the standard-bodied version. Fiat had been out of Formula One racing since the 20s due to the effort and expense required. But in 1969, Fiat bought out Abarth, along with Lancia and later Ferrari, as part of a plan to return to the track. The company's success on the road and track continues today. The end of the 60s brought a new order throughout the world. Man walked on the moon. Students rioted in Paris. The beginning of troubled times marked the end of unbridled prosperity. The market for the blunt-edged Fiat minicars was shrinking. Since 1957, more than 3 million 500s of all types had been produced, and thousands still roam the streets of Italy today. But by 1972, sales had fallen off, and Fiat started looking for a worthy successor. First for replacement was the aging 600 line. Fiat wanted a similar car with a more modern look. The result was the Model 127, with sharper lines, more headroom, and more standard equipment than its predecessor. Gone was the 600's rear engine. The new Fiat 127 was powered by a front-mounted 900cc engine mounted transversely to preserve the Forerunner's snub-nosed profile. Whereas the 600's launch had emphasized its convenience and comfort, stunts like this marketed the 127's power and safety. The new car came with a dual braking system for extra stopping power and a fully synchronized 4-speed gearbox.
The 127 reaches 100 kilometers an hour in 19.4 seconds.
In 1972, time ran out for the Nuovo Cinquecento. Fiat replaced the old, new 500 with the new 126. The new car was built in Fiat's new Monte Cassino factory south of Rome, which had been erected under government incentives to bring industrial work to southern Italy. Unlike the 127, the 126 kept the same 594cc rear engine as its ancestor. A few years later, the engine capacity would be upgraded to 652cc's. The 126 had a more angular look than the 500 and was 4 inches longer, which gave it greater internal volume. The body was reinforced, and the internal finish was a bit better than the Fiat 500's. But first and second gears were still unsynchronized, and the 126 was, for the most part, identical to its predecessor. In fact, Fiat still had an inventory of body parts remaining from the 500, and to use them up, blended the old parts with various components from the new 126. Slapped the label 500R for renovated on the result, and sold it alongside the new 126 until 1975. In Italy, the 126 was not as successful as the 500 had been. Times had changed. Working-class car buyers could now afford larger cars and aspired to middle-class status symbols. The thriving consumer market of the 60s was dashed against the oil crisis of the early 70s and the economic downturn that followed. The 126 had a hard time finding its market. It wasn't a worker's car, nor a car for the urban housewife anymore. It was, at best, a car for the young, but without the special charm of the Cinquecento. In fact, the 500 had proved so durable that there were many still on the Italian roads, while the 126 suffered severe rust problems. In 1976, production of the 126 ceased in Italy and was transferred to Spain and Poland, where it's still produced today. Fiat didn't only make mini-cars. A small saloon car line was developed right alongside the 500s and 600. The earliest post-war effort was the Fiat 1100. Offered as the natural successor to the Balilla, the 1100 was comfortable, easy to drive, and offered options previously available only in more luxurious models. In the simpler and more chauvinistic 1950s, it was promoted as the young husband's car. A new decade, a bit of career advancement, and the young husband became an executive. Fiat responded in the 60s with the executive's car, the 1300, aimed at an entirely new social category, the middle manager.
Ingolfi? Dai una bella sterzata.
Top.
Che c'è?
A recitare così diventa una macchina.
Perché?
Linea, classe, economia di consumo, cambio dolce, ripresa potente. Te lo presento io, l'attrice che fa per te.
Whereas the 500 was being marketed to women, Fiat ads for the 1300 portrayed rather startling sexism.
Bel musetto? No, dico...
In this commercial, actor Vittorio Gassman lets the lady drive a bit, then grabs the wheel for himself. The 1300 was a man's car. And was put to the test in the most rugged conditions, including the North Pole.
Oh, un momento, dove va? Voglio vedere quanto fa! Ma glielo dico io quanto fa! Fai 125!
The 850 was powered by a 900cc rear engine, but mounted transversely like the Mini Minors. A precursor of the late 127, the Fiat 850 also came in Spider convertible and coupe sports versions. In 1966, Fiat dropped the 124 on Italy. Its new four-door sedan would become one of the most popular Italian cars of all time, exported the world over, and built under license in Eastern Europe. Built around a four-cylinder water-cooled engine, two different versions of the 124 were offered, a 1200cc size and a 1438cc version. A slightly less powerful successor came out in the 1970s, the 128. From these small saloon cars, Fiat developed the city car concept at the end of the 1970s. The first expression of this design idea was the new Fiat Ritmo in 1978, seen here in its Abarth racing colors. In the mid-80s, Fiat's small saloon line and mini-car lines converged as the 126 and 127 were retired to be replaced with Fiat Uno. The Uno was practical and comfortable, with award-winning design and low fuel consumption. It was much imitated throughout Europe. Although Fiat had long been retired from the world of Formula One racing, the company still recognized the marketing value of competition, especially in Italy. So Fiat promoted the Uno with an Abarth rally version, created to race in local and international road rallies. The 124 and 128 were even better vehicles for advancing Fiat's image as a producer of tough cars for rugged terrain. The 124 Coupe won rallies all over the globe and raced under a sweeping variety of conditions. One of the most grueling rallies was the Sea to Mountain Rally, which ran from the Riviera to the ski resort of Sestriere. Fiat ran both 124s and 128s in the rally, as well as Abarth conversions of its standard road cars. Over the years since the end of the war, Fiat has been the cornerstone of the Italian economic miracle, the country's preeminent industry, supplying transport of every kind, and thousands of jobs. The rise of the unions in the 1970s put pressure on Fiat to change its labor strategy. The company moved into robotics to ensure quality, to reduce dependence on unionized unskilled labor, and to increase production flexibility. For many of the same reasons, Fiat also invested heavily abroad, including Eastern Europe. Fiat also used the new technology to revive a flagging new investment, the Alfa Romeo company. In 1987, Fiat took control of the Alfa, the last Italian car company outside its control. Alfa had been in dire straits since its quality image had been tarnished by the failure of the Alfa Sud line. By applying its robotics technology to Alfa's production lines, Fiat managed to return Alfa Romeo to the prestige car sector of the market. The first and foremost offering was the Alfa 164, which came to vie with Mercedes-Benz and BMW in the European luxury class. By the end of the 1980s, the forces of history were once again beginning to overtake the car-building industry. The collapse of the Soviet Empire created new opportunities for Fiat, which had long been in the forefront of licensing its designs to Eastern European car companies. The developing economic crisis in Italy also meant the market for microcars was back. Fiat answered both calls with a new Mini, built in Poland, imported to Italy, and reviving the familiar historic name, Cinquecento. The newest incarnation of the 500 carries a water-cooled four-cylinder engine instead of its progenitor's air-cooled vertical twin, but its body size is the same, and its mission is in every way the same as the old Nuovo Cinquecento, and indeed the Topolino, to supply nimble urban transport in relative comfort at low cost. As obvious as this goal seems, this is a market very few companies have approached effectively. Fiat's success at the game is a testament to the company's energy, intelligence, and foresight.
Dadelijk de lessen die we kunnen leren van de Golfoorlog in After Desert Storm, na de onderbreking.